Hi. All right, so today we're going to start. We're still on Module 1. We're going to do Lesson 4 today, which is 2.2, adding integers, and then we're going to talk about perimeter. So the first part, again, we're going to deal with some vocab stuff, so fill in the blanks with the following. So number 1, if n is a number, then negative n plus n is, and what they're looking for here is 0, because what they're talking about, if n is a number, we'll just say 4. So negative 4 plus 4. Anytime you add what we call opposites, it is always 0. One's negative, one's positive. If you add them, it's going to be 0. Number 2, if a is a number, then negative a is what? Or the opposite of negative a is what? So again, we'll just call a 4. So if there's two negative signs in front of a number, really what this symbol represents is the opposite of. So if I ask you what's the opposite of a negative 4, it'd be a positive 4. That's why you may hear instructors say two negatives in a row makes a positive. That's why. So what they're looking for here, it would just be positive a. Okay, objective number 1, we're going to talk about adding integers. And at first they want us to use a number line to graph the value of the sum. So whenever we graph this on the number line, we're going to start at 0. And for example 1, they want us to take 5 and add a negative 1. So if we start at 0, I want you to find 5. So if I start at 0 and I go to 5, that's going to be right here. Then they want us to add a negative 1. So if I add a negative 1, what that means is I go back 1. So where am I at that point? I'm at 4. So you would tell me 5 plus a negative 1 is 4. And we're just using a number line to do this. You don't always have to. It's just nice for those that struggle with this. It's just good to give you a visual. So if we look at example number 2, we have negative 6 plus a negative 2. So again, we're going to start at negative 6. So go to negative 6, and we're going to add a negative 2. My pen was too thin there. Okay, and then if I add a negative 2, what that means is from negative 6, we're going to go back 2 more to the left. So here we're going to end up at negative 8. And again, this may be confusing for some, it may help for others, but just to give you that visual. Okay, going to the next page, we're going to do one more. So they want us to add negative 8 plus 3. So again, I'm going to start at negative 8. So 0, so find negative 8. I'm going to go to left 8 because it's a negative, so go to left. And then they want us to add 3. So if I add 3, what that means is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 to the right, which gives us negative 5. So yes, negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. So that's just kind of giving you the visual of what we're about to continue to talk about. The next section is we're going to still be adding, but we're going to think about the rules for adding when we do this. So we're getting ready to think about the rules for adding and subtracting integers. Our next section is subtracting integers, but they're the same rules, so it's just nice to go ahead and put those together. So rules for adding and subtracting integers. Well, if they are different signs, what we're going to think is subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. If they're the same signs, what we're going to think is add and keep the sign, okay? So as you look at example 4, I know you guys look at 6 and 4, and I know when you add it, you know what it is. But let's just learn these rules so when these negatives start bothering you, you know how to handle them. So if I ask you 6 and 4, are those both positive numbers? Are they both negative? Do they have the same sign or different signs? And if you look directly in front, they are both considered positives, right? You see the same thing in front, so they're both positive. So in that case, they are the same sign. So what you're thinking is add. So if you just saw 6 and 4, that would be 10. Keep the sign. They're both positive. That's why we keep it a positive 10. Okay? Okay, let's go to the next one. So if you saw -6 plus a -4, if I asked you same sign or different signs, what would you tell me? And here, if you look directly in front of the number, do you notice they both have the same sign? They both have a negative in front. So again, yes, they are the same sign. So what are we thinking? We add, and when we add, just ignore whatever's in front. Just take the digits themselves, 6 and 4. If I add those two numbers, I get 10. And then keep the sign, meaning what sign do you see directly in front of both of them? It's a negative, correct? So that's why our final answer is a -10 here. Excuse me. And think about money. If I was $6 in the hole and then I go further $4 in the hole, I'm going to be $10 in the hole, right? Which is what -10 represents. Okay, look at example 6. -10 plus a -5. So do we have same sign or different signs? Again, if you notice, we do have the same sign. So what I'm thinking is add. So 10 plus 5 is 15. Keep the sign. What sign do you see directly in front of both numbers? A negative. So my final answer is -15. And again, when you think about this, always think about money because this represents net 10 in the hole, meaning I'm out $10 and then I'm out $5 more, which means I'm out $15. I'm $15 in the hole. Okay, number 7, -3 plus 5. So as we look at -3 plus 5, if I ask you, do we have the same sign or different signs, what would you say? This one, we have different signs. Just look directly in front of the number. One has a minus, one has a plus, so they are different. So different signs, what we're going to think is subtract. So be careful here. Remember, just take the digits that you see. So I see a 3 and a 5. So whenever you subtract, big number minus small number. So if I subtract those two, it's going to be 2, because 5 minus 3 is 2. And then it says keep the sign of the larger number. So let me ask you, we're talking about the digits. So is 3 or is 5 larger? Notice 5 is larger, and what sign is in front? It's a positive, right? So you would tell me this is a positive 2. So again, think of money. If I'm $3 in the hole, if I have a bill that's $3 and I go pay with a $5 bill, I'm still going to have $2 in my pocket. Okay? So you can always think of money when we're doing this. Okay, next one, 9 plus a -3. So if I asked you same sign or different signs, what would you tell me? Here, again, different signs. I see one positive, one negative. So again, we're going to subtract. So if I subtract those two digits, 9 minus 3 is 6, and then keep the sign of the larger number. So is 9 or is 3 larger? 9 is larger, it is positive, so this stays a positive. And think about it. If you have $9 and then go spend $3, you're still going to have 6, right? Positive 6 in your pocket. Okay. Going to the next one. 6 plus a -8. Same sign or different signs. What would you tell me? Here again, they are different. So we're going to subtract. So what is 8 minus 6? 2. And then keep the sign of the larger number. Which one's larger? 8 is, what sign is in front of 8? A negative. Okay, example 10, same sign or different signs. Again, yes, they have different signs. So we're going to subtract. 14 minus 8 is 6. Keep the sign of the larger. Which one is larger? And what's in front? So -6. Example 11, -20 plus -10. Same sign or different signs. Here you'll notice we have the same sign. So we have the same sign, so what we're thinking is add. 20 plus 10 is 30. Keep the sign that's already in front of both of them, which is a -30. Example 12, -10 plus 0. You can think about this and use the rules if you wanted to, but if you think about when you add 0, does the value change? No, so I'm just still 10 in the hole. Okay. Example 13. So notice we have more than one number now to add, or I'm sorry, more than two to add. So just take two at a time. We're just adding and subtracting here. So work it left to right. So if I take those first two, 20 plus a negative 15, same sign or different signs? Different. So what I'm thinking is subtract, keep the sign of the larger. So that's a positive 5. Notice I have not used plus a negative 8 yet, so I've got to bring that down. And now add these. 5 plus a negative 8, same sign or different? Different. So I'm going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger, and what number's in front of 8? A negative. Okay. One more. Again, I'm going to take two at a time. Negative 13 plus 5, different signs, so subtract, keep the sign of the larger, and I'll just bring down what I'm not using yet, and then take the next two. Negative 4 plus a negative 8, same signs, so I'm thinking add, keep that sign, bring down that plus 20, I haven't used it yet. Here, same sign or different signs, different, so subtract, keep the sign of the larger, so positive 8. Okay, moving along, objective number 2, evaluate an algebraic expression by adding. So here they're going to give us an expression. So here they want us to evaluate this expression, x plus y, and they're telling us what to replace x and y with. So I'm going to go through, and every time I come to a letter, I'm going to put parentheses, and you don't necessarily have to, but when they become more difficult, it will just make it easier to make sure you're doing the right steps in the right order. So instead of x, I'm plugging in a negative 5. Instead of y, I'm plugging in 14. And so negative 5 plus 14, same sign or different signs? Different. So subtract, keep the sign of the larger. Okay, next one, let's do example 16. Evaluate x plus y. So again, we're using the same expression. And instead of x, it tells us to plug in negative 30. And instead of y, I'm plugging in negative 27. So I'm just going to go through every time I see a letter, I'm going to put parentheses. Instead of x, I'm plugging in negative 30. And instead of y, I'm plugging in negative 27. So then when I go perform this operation, same sign or different sign? Same. So add, keep the sign. Okay, example 17. Evaluate, so here's our expression. I'm going to go through, and every time I come to a letter, put parentheses. Instead of x, I'm plugging in 3. And instead of y, I'm plugging in a negative 1. So then think of order of operations. We need to multiply before we add. So 2 times 3 is 6. Bring down what I haven't used yet. And then when I add, these are different signs. So what I'm thinking is subtract, keep the sign of the larger. Okay, moving on to objective 3, solve problems by adding integers. So number 18 wants us to find the sum of negative 7 and 25. So here, if you don't know what the word sum is, we don't even know what to do, right? Remember, sum is just telling us to add. So if I go add negative 7 plus 25, am I going to have same sign or different signs here? Different. So I'm going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger. Number 19. In Philadelphia, the record extreme high temperature is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Decrease this temperature by 111 degrees, and the result is the record extreme low temperature. Find this temperature. So when you're doing word problems, just read through and kind of get an idea. Then we're going to go back through and then find the important information we need to jot down. So in Philadelphia, the record high temperature was 104. Decrease this temperature. So if I have 104, decrease means to subtract. So decrease this temperature by 111. So you can represent it like that or like this, because as we start moving to the next lesson, you'll notice that when you subtract and when you add a negative, it's actually the same. So depending on you, you may think of things differently. So either way, it doesn't matter which way, whether you think about it like this or like this, either way, it's still going to give you the same thing. Because if I ask you same sign or different, they have different things in front of them. So I'm going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger. So -7. Okay, perimeter. We're getting ready to talk about perimeter. So what does perimeter mean? Well, perimeter is the distance around an object. So if they want us to find the perimeter of number 20, that just means what's this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. In other words, we need to add up all the sides. It's a rectangle, so add up all 4 sides. So I can see that this side is 9 plus, I can see this side is 5 plus this side up on top is the same as the one it's parallel to, so it is also 9. And then this side over here is the same thing as what it's parallel to, so it is also 5. So notice they didn't tell us these, but we can figure out what those other 2 sides are. So when I go add that up, 9 plus 5 plus 9 plus 5 should be 28, if I can add correctly. And then when we're talking perimeter, we just use the unit that's given, which in this case is inches. And if you want to abbreviate that, IN, perfectly fine. Okay, next shape, they would like us to go figure out the perimeter of a triangle. Notice a triangle just has 3 sides, so we just have to add up all 3 sides. 7 plus 6 plus 3. And remember, when you add, order doesn't matter. So if you had written them in a different order, it doesn't matter. In the end, as long as we add correctly, we're going to get 16, and just make sure you put the units back on. In this case, it's inches. Okay, last one. They want us to add and find perimeter. So this one is a little bit trickier because if you think about this shape, I have to add this side plus this side plus this side plus this side that they don't give me plus this side that they don't give me plus this side. So notice there are 2 sides, this one right there and this one right there, that I have to figure out what that length is. Okay, so let's start with this one right here. So if we think about how to find that length, well, let me grab, I don't know where my little pen went. Okay, so if we think about this side to this side is 10 is that full length here. 7 is from here to here, so this is 7. So what must this be right here in order? 7 plus what is 10? That side is going to be 3 feet, because I know if I add this plus this, it's got to be 10. Okay, I know it's kind of complicated. I'm going to erase this just so we can talk about the other side, and I'll go ahead and label that one for us, that we know this is 3. Oops. Get my pen back. Okay, that's a 3. So now we have to go find this side here. So again, what we know is this length from here to here is 15. Well, what I know from here to here is equal to this, 9, right? So 9 plus what is going to give me 15? 6. So that must mean this length there is 6. So this is 3, that is 6. So now we have all the sides. 9 plus 3 plus 6 plus 7 plus 15 plus 10. So I just need to go add all this up. So that's going to be 12 plus 13 plus 25. So that's going to be 25 plus 25. So if I can add correctly, that's going to be 50. And don't forget, whenever we're dealing with perimeter, you just put your unit back on. And that is 2.2.